Okay. Good evening. For the past 3 months now, we've started our council meetings discussing pandemic matters. I'm digressing from that practice this evening because there's something even more important occurring across our nation right now. Citizens expect their leaders to weigh in on events of concern to them, especially during crises. So I suppose tonight's address may be seen by some as merely obligatory words, another flapping of the jaws by someone who offers few answers. Admittedly, I have few answers. But I do want to share some ideas as we move forward as a community, being mindful of that horrible event occurring in Minneapolis on May 25 that now 10 days later continues to resonate throughout our country. The videoed killing of George Floyd that we've watched over and over has shaken us to our core. There were so many forebodings, warning shots if you will, that for whatever reason we as a society collectively failed to heed. I opened our August 17, 2017 City Council meeting with thoughts on the riot in Charlottesville, Virginia. My opening statement that evening included this passage. In wake of the horrible events occurring in Charlottesville, Virginia last weekend, we here in our Buckhannon Upshur community need to be united and vigilant in our rejection of hate and those who would seek to exploit it here. Charlottesville is only 174 miles from Buckhannon. It takes but 3.5 hours to get there from here. By almost all accounts, Charlottesville also had been seen as an inviting, tolerant, and inclusive community, the home to one of our nation's preeminent institutions of higher education, the University of Virginia. What happened in Charlottesville could happen anywhere. Some scoffed at those remarks. Out of Charlottesville, we organized our Diversity Appreciation Coalition. We came together to recognize Hall of Fame football coach Ace Mumford, a black man who was born just a couple of blocks down the street on Sedgwick Street. We recognized Yi Bi Du, a former laundry operator from the 1920s and an immigrant from China. Out of that riot in Virginia, our city began to sponsor the lighting of the menorah each December in Jawbone Park. We have performed our 82 sentences of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech during Black History Month each February. We have actively celebrated Women's History Month in March by honoring great women of our community's past, such as Jean Lee Latham, Binky Poundstone, Joyce Stockard, and Mary Gibson. We've supported Pride Fest in June in Jawbone Park. We've sponsored exercises to heighten awareness of the need to be ADA compliant as we seek to improve inclusion of all of those with disabilities in all that we do. Our city has supported giving fresh chances and hope to recovering addicts while paying tribute to those who've died from the drug scourge during Black Balloon Day and hearing the testimonials of those who are in recovery during our Hope and Help assemblies. Our own police department began the labor-intense process of seeking full professional accreditation through CALIA, which exercise, among many other things, includes commitment and ownership by all of our officers to maintaining respect for all people at all times. I'll ask Chief Gregory to comment on his department's efforts in just a couple of minutes. We need to call upon our Diversity Appreciation Coalition again to make recommendations as to how we as a community may contribute solutions to ending racism here, to develop our own path forward. I've held up a little orange sign for the past 3 years now as a reminder that we all need to be more welcoming, inviting, and inclusive with our college students, regardless as to their race, ethnicity, religion, or orientation. We want them all to feel that this really is their home among these hills. Soon, a new wave of Wesleyan students will come to be a part of our community. A number of them will be black. What will we do? How shall we greet them? I encourage everyone to display that little orange sign, available to you at City Hall, that bears the simple message, we are all in it together, and by we mean everyone. Everyone. is a valued someone here. You are welcome here. Our community, our citizenry, our local government, our activities, our businesses, our schools, and special events are all inclusive. It doesn't matter what your race, religion, gender, orientation, or disability is, as you are a part of us. Buckhannon is glad you are here. So however you're feeling this evening, sad, angry, numb, whatever your sensation is, there are some things I'd ask us all to think about together as a community as we seek that positive path forward. First, how do we move past racism and prejudice of all forms? How can we embrace the ideals that we as a people must include everyone in all that we do, while recognizing the obvious reward that we are stronger as a society when we are inclusive? How do we come to the collective realization that there are no second-class citizens, that we all stand equal before the law and within our societal institutions? Silence is not an option. Silence respecting an issue such as racism makes us complicit. We must find our voices in support of our friends for who far too long have been victimized by racism. Second, how do we peacefully maintain our resolve to effect substantial changes as we achieve inclusivity? Our answers cannot come from violence or rioting or looting or tearing down those very facilities that we all aspire to enjoy together. Destruction of any property, public or private, is senseless and cannot be tolerated by any of us, no matter how outraged we are by our previous failures to defeat racism. One of those interviewed during the past few days said something very poignant along these lines. Don't act what you oppose. Don't act what you oppose. What happened to George Floyd and what has happened to all too many black Americans is criminal. Don't do something that's criminal to protest criminality. Through peaceful protest and demonstration, we all together can change the world for the better. Third, and being mindful that one bad apple does not spoil the barrel, we need to appreciate how fortunate we are here to have excellent, highly trained and professional police officers in our community, and I believe throughout most of the country, who would never subscribe to anything remotely resembling what occurred on May 25 in Minneapolis. We can easily reconcile our subscription to the notions addressed in the first 2 points with this third one. If there are systemic problems with police in our society, we must move to eradicate those issues through proper channels. Chief Gregory, City Attorney Tom O'Neill, and I are collaborating on an exercise with the members of our own police department that will re-emphasize and reiterate our city's commitment to treating everyone fairly and the same, embracing total professionalism. I'd like to call upon Chief Matt Gregory for his remarks, and then I'll close our opening. Chief, thanks for being here. It's not your night to be here, and all I had to do was ask, and you said absolutely.
Thank you for having me. When asked to put a few thoughts together the other day, I wanted to take my time with this because I wanted my words to be in earnest and not just be a reflection on my feelings, my position, my point of view, but the point of view of all of our police officers with the Buckhannon Police Department. So Mayor, if I could, I've prepared a statement I'd like to read tonight.
Absolutely.
And I start out with a quote that says this: "A sacred respect for the constitutional law is the vital principle, the sustaining energy of a free government." Alexander Hamilton. As keepers of the peace, we at the Buckhannon Police Department embrace the principles of our United States Constitution. We believe that the freedoms and protections this document affords to all people, and not just certain people, are the hallmarks of our society. We believe in fairness, justice, and equality, and that the principle of due process applies to everyone. Each and every day, the officers of the Buckhannon Police Department work to exhibit these ideals, whether it be in our encounters with the community or through our investigations. These concepts are encapsulated within our vision and value statement, which states the following. The vision of the Buckhannon Police Department is to provide the community with professional law enforcement service while establishing lasting community partnerships. In support of this vision, the following values will guide our day-to-day behavior and decision-making. Integrity, professional, respect, fair, compassionate, community-oriented. As we continue along our journey for full professional accreditation through CALEA, the standards and best practices of this process will be our guiding light, as they have for the past almost 3 years now through this process. And through it all, we will serve our community with the utmost commitment and dedication.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you. We, all of us together, are Buckhannon strong. As we engage in our moment of silent reflection this evening, I ask that we particularly keep close to our hearts the victims of racism everywhere, understanding that there are residents here among us, including our black residents, who are hurting and afraid this evening. Let's lessen their pain and fear. Tomorrow evening at 7:30, our community will come together in Jawbone Park for a peaceful vigil, our next step in ending racism. Please keep all of our friends in need in our best thoughts and prayers this evening, and particularly the family of David Sean Hamilton, son of Senator Bill Hamilton, who died just yesterday. And horrible kind of a thing. Bill's a great colleague of all of ours. Please join me in that moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. Chief, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for joining us. I know we have a number of folks who are here to talk about the excitement with our trails system. And I think the primary spokesperson, but certainly others may want to weigh in. I'm going to call upon Nathan Theddy first of all. Nathan, are you still out there in telephone land?
I sure am, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to set the table a bit for us? And maybe what I'll ask the council to do after we have some public reflection about this and some comments, I may pull one of our strategic matters, which is identified as F4, to the table for council's consideration. But Nathan, I'll let you commence.
Sure, thank you. So I've been involved as a member of a loose-knit group of volunteers, as council may remember when we were before council two and a half years ago. And the group has been focused on rehabilitating the network of trails that lies behind the high school and the pool facility, and is basically part of the Upshur County Recreation Park and then the Board of Education property. And we've been interested as a group, and we're a loose-knit, informal group, and we've been interested in expanding that trail network as the public interest in those trails has really skyrocketed. And to that end, we had visited with the city council, I believe it was 2.5 years ago, and the council was, I think, basically the same as it is now, except Randy, I don't remember that you were a recorder yet at that time, but that was back in late 2017, early 2018. And the council gave us the go-ahead to pursue, in coordination with the city, a potential longer-term lease on adjoining property to expand these trails for non-motorized recreation, principally for mountain biking and hiking and trail running and nature observation and those sorts of activities. And council at the time was very supportive and said, you know, go forth and see what you can work out with the adjoining property owner. So fast forward to today, and I'm happy to report that we have an agreement with that adjoining property owner, which is it's a corporation, which is probably familiar to most, if not everyone. It's Wolf Run Mining Company, which is a subsidiary of Arch Coal. And historically, the property had been used, or at least a portion of the property had been used for coal mining activity, but that activity has long since ceased. And so we were hopeful that we could interest that property owner in letting us repurpose the property for something else, for public access for non-motorized outdoor recreation in a community that's clearly really hungry for it. And so after a lot of back and forth, and council giving us the go-ahead 2.5 years ago, the city did enter into a shorter-term license with Arch or with Wolf Run for basically all of us to do some reconnaissance on the property and figure out if it would be suitable for further developing trails. Actually go put boots on the ground and go across the property and look at it in some detail and make sure that it would work for our purposes. Those purposes being, and I maybe should have said this at the outset, sort of twofold. One would be that it lies very nicely for potential upriver expansion of the Riverwalk Trail. Now, there are properties between these properties and, of course, the existing upriver terminus of the Riverwalk Trail, but on paper, it would be a critical piece of property for connecting the Riverwalk Trail as it is now to the middle school, high school, the county recreation park, the pool, and the existing trail network. And then the second sort of pursuit that we would want with this property is to expand the existing trails that we've been able to rehabilitate on the property, and those trails have been there for some years. So it would be sort of the twofold benefit in terms of trail development. And so we put together this proposal with Arch. Like I said, that was late 2017, early 2018, with council's full support. And we went out with Jerry Arnold and a couple of his guys on a couple different occasions, and we scouted out the property, and we generated some mapping about how trails could lie on the property and lie pretty well, be situated pretty conveniently on the property for the expansion of the Riverwalk, should we ever get to that point, if the city wanted to pursue that, as well as to expand on the trails that are there now at the County Recreation Park and on the Board of Education property. And so we've been able to do that. We went back to, and I should say that we've done this the whole time in concert with Jerry Arnold and with the mayor's input and Tom O'Neill and Amby, just a wonderful collection of professionals who we've been able to bounce ideas off of. And so now we're to the point where we have a proposed lease of the property with this property owner that would be between the city and Wolf Run Mining for the expansion of trails in the way that I've just described. It's taken a long time to get here, and we all wanted to be here a lot sooner than we are now. But there have been a couple of factors that have led to the delay. Just for council's edification. One is that Arch had an environmental performance bond on the property for a long time. And with that environmental performance bond active, it was not allowed to pursue anything like this until that bond had been released by the DEP. And then so finally that bond was released. We resumed discussions, and then we had, of course, a lot of disruption with the global pandemic. And so that slowed our conversations quite a bit. But fortunately, over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to resurrect those conversations with Arch, and but particularly with its general counsel out in St. Louis, and we've had input from Tom and from Andy and from the mayor about getting us to this point. And so we have the lease that as proposed. The lease has been provided as part of your package for this evening's meeting, but basically we're looking to finalize an agreement that we first discussed with council 2.5 years ago, and council was fully supportive of then, and so obviously we're counting on full support this evening. I think that's why you see so many. I don't know what's visible to council and what's not in terms of the go-to-meeting platform, but it's littered with a bunch of people that you probably don't ordinarily see at these council meetings, who all have been out there in some form or another, enjoying the trails, helping to resurrect them and rehabilitate them and expand upon them. There are certainly folks on this call who are way more involved and more qualified than me in terms of how those trails have come together and what it's going to take to do this next phase. But this has been my involvement anyway, or my main involvement is attempting to get an agreement together between this property owner and the city. And so with that, we have the draft before you as part of your packet, and I'd be happy to field any questions.
Questions for Nathan, and then I'll call upon Tom, and we can talk about the actual surface lease agreement that again is in the council packet. If no one has any questions for Nathan, we might ask some of your cohorts, JJ and Rachel and John and others that may want to address, if nothing else, their enthusiasm for our opportunity to expand the trails.
I'd be happy to yield the floor to anybody who might have something to say.
JJ, Rachel, anybody?
Hey, I'll go ahead and chime in here.
It's JJ, right?
Yes, JJ Ford here.
Yes, sir.
From my basement. So yeah, I'm really happy to see where these trails have been going lately. It seems like this spring, in terms of traffic, and seeing traffic from outside of Buckhannon itself has really gone way up. When I'm checking platforms like Strava, where people can log their runs and their bike rides, I'm seeing, upwards around almost 10 users a day and like 20 on the weekend, which is, the people have been looking to get outside, especially in this area. And it's kind of taken off to a thing where it's gone way beyond what I ever thought it would. So I'm really glad to see that. We're also starting to pull in younger community members now. So, and trying to pass it on a little bit. So I really like what I've seen happening with it, and really excited to try to be able to make it a bigger and better thing.
Thanks, JJ. Rachel, John, anybody else from the trails group?
I'd like to chime in.
Sure.
This is John Weber.
Hi, John.
I'd just like to say that, to really just reflect that there's been a lot of positive changes. In addition to having all those people there, you're having, I would say, community security there because there's people and a presence there, so that you're not having as much mischief that might be going on there otherwise.
Yeah.
So these trails in this recreational area, having more traffic there has just been better. Initially, when we would go out there, you would see high school kids out on the ground afterwards. And you're not seeing that as much, or people in parked cars, or kids doing recreational activities that don't involve athletics in the woods there. So I'm not seeing that anymore. So it's great to have, I think, the increased traffic in the area, promoting wellness and activity in our community, promoting a resource for community people to use. There's people that are getting out there just to simply take pictures for the photo club. There's people out there hiking. There's people out there biking. Great families that are going out there. I have friends that live in Buckhannon County are bringing the whole families over to play on the trails. So it's great to see it come so far, and to add an additional possibly nearly 300 acres would just be substantial to what we could do there and offer people there, and actually take it to the point that it would be a destination for tourists that, hey, while we're in West Virginia, we got to go check out these trails.
Well said, John. Rachel's the gal that posts a lot of the pictures. Rachel, do you want to be heard, or has John summed it up?
He summed it up pretty well. I just like getting out there and promoting the trails, taking pictures, and trying to keep it beautiful and litter-free, and just invite people to come.
Well, you know, when we started the River Trail back in 1999, the then dream was to eventually take it to the high school and possibly beyond. And I think that this opportunity that we have here this evening is the single biggest opportunity to ultimately see the River Trail extended and expanded in that direction. So, Council, I would entertain a motion that we bring to the table on your agenda item F4, which is authorizing execution of lease agreement with Arch Co. regarding the BU Trails expansion.
So
I have a motion by Mr. Thomas and a second by Mr. Rylands. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not,
I just want to commend all who have been a part of it. This is an excellent project, and it's really good news to hear that this endeavor continues to move forward. I've spoken with member Joey Baxa about this several times, and he asked me when the last time I've been out there, and I said, oh gosh, it's probably last summer, and he said, you need to go out there now. He mentioned that you, John Weber, have spent a lot of time out there working on it, and many of you have spent a lot of time out there working on it, and I'm thrilled that this expansion is going to take place, that that things keep moving forward with this system, and I think it's wonderful for our community. Absolutely.
anybody else on council? I alluded a little bit ago, I asked Tom O'Neill to weigh in, and then I just forgot him. So Tom, we've both examined this proposal. You're welcome to speak.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary to go through all the terms of it, but the agreement is for a non-exclusive lease for 10 years with successive renewal terms of a year. We have certain indemnification and insurance obligations. There is no provision in the lease for a payment to be made, and it's a relatively straightforward document. They do maintain the power to terminate the lease with 30 days notice, particularly if they wish to re-engage in mining activities, but frankly they could do so for any reason. That's probably the only reason they would in practicality elect, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
I would note, council, that AMBI did share the requirements with our insurance carrier, and we've produced a certificate of insurance with our carrier's authorizations that will be annexed with this lease agreement, so we will be covered relative to that indemnification insurance requirement. Any questions for Tom? Any questions for Nathan or JJ or John or Rachel or anyone with the Trails Group?
I think the presentation 2.5 years ago was very exciting,
Yeah.
and I'm glad it's come to this point now where we can go ahead and execute.
Yeah. Good things come to those who kind of wait, I guess, maybe?
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
Those who persist, Mayor,
Yeah.
those who persist.
Yeah. We've
Good
been-
job, Nathan.
We've been persistent. Nathan has done the heavy lifting. He just asked me to give a little prod here and there, and it's been a good team effort. Council, we've got a motion and a second pending. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of permitting me to execute the surface lease agreement with Arch Coal, doing business as Wolf Run Mining LLC, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I,
Is anyone opposed? If not, the minutes will reflect that the authorization to execute this lease agreement carried unanimously. So folks with our trails, let's circle the wagons right after we get this executed version back from BJ Sturgill, and we'll move forth and hopefully have some ribbon cuttings and all kinds of excitement out there right soon.
Thank you for your persistence.
Yes.
Thank you all, and thank you, Mayor McCauley and your team. You all are the consummate professionals, and it's just been so terrific to collaborate with you and take advantage of your leadership and your team, and with Amby and Tom and Callie and Jerry and just everybody at the city. It's been fantastic, even though it's been frustrating in terms of how long it's taken to come together. This is really wonderful. We're thrilled. So
Nathan, this is Dave Thomas, and I want to thank you all very much. And I want you to keep open next January sometime I'm going to ask you to participate in the spelling bee. Get some good PR with that.
There you have it, Nathan.
No good deeds go unpunished.
Good. Very good.
All right, folks.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you all, and you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting, but I think you'd be some crazy people among you if you did that.
That's okay, you can join us.
Thank you all. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay. Let's get into, I don't think we have any other guests unless Callie tells me that anyone has joined us from telephone or TV land. I'm sure she'll message me if that's the case. Let's get into our,
Yeah.
Callie, any other?
I was just going to say we had so many folks on here, and I did take some photos from my screen too, since it's not showing up. I don't think that laptop screen is big enough to project it, up onto your screen. But I took some shots, so I'll send those out to you. But we had so many people join us for that trails discussion.
Yeah.
And I did not recognize everybody. So we do have a few more people still on here. If you are on and you had planned to join for a different purpose, could you please state your name now?
And you can send comments to Callie. I should have stated this at the outset. At Buckhannon, at buckannonwv.org. That's the email messaging. Buckhannon at buckannonwv.org. And Callie will run us in any questions or comments. So.
Right. It looks like all those folks are logging off, so I'm assuming that everyone was here for the trails and no one's speaking up otherwise.
That's exciting stuff, Callie. Thank you very much. You are next up, so we'll just keep you talking. Our information coordinator. It's all yours.
Well, thank you. Your report from me is in your packet. As usual, I'll go through our website, social media, and news that we've been posting. We did share a couple of photos and information from the police department trying to seek information on a couple suspects there. We also had to inform folks that the Upshur County Solid Waste Authority's Tire Amnesty Day has been canceled for the Saturday.
That was due to the DEP and their restrictions right now on employee travel and maybe some other issues. So that was not us canceling it, it was they were canceling it. So we had to, of course, follow suit, and we hope that can be rescheduled at some point. We shared some PR about Gateway West construction starting soon on West Main Street. And so that could be getting started any day now, I believe. It may have started today, but that had to be delayed. So any time now that could be starting to prepare for some construction activities over on West Main Street. But it will be so nice when that's finished to have the period lighting and the ADA compliant sidewalks and really kind of connect both West and East Main Streets. We shared information from Art 26201 and Upshur County Schools about the Youth Art exhibit at the Colonial Theater tomorrow, and so we are looking forward to that. We shared information from the library on their curbside service and their reopening plan. We, of course, shared Champions Day from Jawbone Park. Gosh, there's so many, I don't know if I should go through every single one. I'm just looking down through and seeing which had the most views. The library, really, people appreciated that one, so we want to remind folks to support the library excess levy on Tuesday. And flipping over here, the recycling, we also put out information today that curbside recycling will be starting again on June 16th, going back to its regular schedule, the first and third Tuesdays. And of course, City Hall reopening to the public as well as the parks. And the Name the New Street contest, we have been getting a lot of feedback from folks sending in street name ideas for that new street being constructed next to CVS.
How many altogether now? 25, 30, something like that? That sound
It's
about
at
right?
least that. I don't have that spreadsheet up in front of me right now, but you're right, that's right the area.
And
And they largely are kind of a lot focused on that Leonard Memorial Hospital that had been there,
Right.
or just relating to medicine and doctors. I'd say probably 60-70%
Yeah.
are focused on that concept.
And do folks have an idea for the naming the new street? They have through June 30th, right?
That's right.
And
So
then in
you
July,
can
we'll
submit.
figure it out.
That's right.
Super. Any questions?
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry, Callie, go ahead.
Well, sorry, that was just the PR side of
Yeah.
things. We'll move down to grants just very quickly. We did receive the $50,000 Transportation Alternatives Program through the West Virginia Department of Highways. That's for the engineering and design of the next phase that will go from Marion to Moore Street. And so that was good news, but of course, the overwhelming disappointment was just the news that we believe we're not funded this year for the AML pilot, which would have included the Stockard youth expansion, as well as additional extensions on the Riverwalk in both northward and southward and upstream and downstream, whatever way you want to look at it. So that was very disappointing, of course, for myself as well, and something that I'm very interested in. And so it was nice to get a little good news tonight with those trails folks, and as well as the Transportation Alternatives grant coming through. I know we all worked hard on it, many of staff here. I also had some contacts that had been federal grant reviewers that reviewed it and sent me feedback to put back in it. So I really think it was a good application, and we'll just try to keep building on it and try again.
Who received the grant, John? Do we know?
94% of it went to about a half a dozen counties in southern West Virginia.
I can forward you the press release from the governor's office if you'd be interested. I'll not comment too much more on it.
Yeah, that'd be fine if we could get it in our mail. Thank you.
We, when you're disappointed about something, you don't want to say anything that's going to be too far out there, because it'll end up maybe on the same guy's desk next year when we ask again.
Yeah.
So, but 50,000 is better than nothing. But
Yeah,
when
I'm
you're
not asking for it
Yeah.
for us to criticize it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know who received it, and I wish them well. It's great for them.
We had every reason to believe that we would be awarded our grant. So let's keep the fingers crossed for next year. The new process starts July 1, and again, we are supposed to know by October. That was one of the really frustrating elements with this AML grant. We were told we would know in October, and we didn't find out until the end of May.
How long do you think this grant will be continued for, David, as far as?
It's the money that funds it is generated upon coal extracted. So there still is enough mining. I think the original award to West Virginia was $30 million a year, and they anticipate that this year's award will be $25 million. So more projects.
And Dave, this is Callie or Dave Thomas. I at least am having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, so the other folks on the phone might be as well. So
I'll speak louder next time. Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Sorry.
He was inquisitive about where the money went. And
A lot of it was concentrated with the Hatfield and McCoy trails, but there were other projects as well. It was largely geographically in the southern part of the state, except for two that were not.
yeah.
And they were smaller dollar amounts.
Thank you.
Questions for Callie? Are you finished with your grant part of your report?
I am.
Questions for her? Either
Unless
way?
there's questions.
Information or on grants. We still managed during the past 4 years, it's in your packet, we got about $4.1 million in grant money. So we don't want to bite the hand that feeds you.
And we appreciate Callie's work. She's
Yep.
doing a phenomenal job.
It was a terrific application, best I've ever seen.
Thank you, Callie.
All right.
I appreciate it. We'll keep at it.
So I was going to say at the beginning of the meeting with Amby not being here that we would get out of here in record time. We can't blame her because she does have in your packet her report, and very quickly the balances. General fund checking is $760,331. General fund CD $84,557. Historic Landmarks has a savings account with $3,023 in it. The SYCC capital campaign, it's actually $465,000. Coltax, $58,992. Municipal stabilization, $514,243. Flood control, $93,85, and sales tax account still has $31,250 in it. And as we get into the first part of July, we'll get our second quarter sales tax, which we anticipate to be in the $250,000, $300,000 range. So that's it for Amby's report. Chief Kimball, is JB out there?
I am, sir.
There you are. I hadn't heard you, heard the melodic tones of your voice, Chief Kimball, so melodic.
A wonderful.
I just made that word up, I think.
How is it?
What do you got for us, JB?
We are 90 responses in May, which is down from May of 19 by 30 responses.
Wow.
Our total responses for the year are down 17%, and mostly because of COVID. But they are on the uptick right now. We're back responding to the normal amount of calls, usually 4 or 5 a day. Mostly car wrecks now that everybody's out driving again, so everybody needs to be careful. Right now, year to date, we're at 462 responses or calls for service. We've logged 821 hours of training so far this year, which is a little bit down about a third, because the firehouse is closed, our training facility is closed, stuff like that. And in relation to that, Friday about 4:30, or tomorrow at 4:30, Hearst will be here to demonstrate a couple of tools for us out here for a couple hours in our parking lot. If anybody wants to stop by and look at the new rescue tools that Hearst is putting out. We did open up the truck bids today. Andy was gone, but Barb assisted us with that. We have those at City Hall, and the truck committee will review those and get with Amby and make a recommendation on which we had a total of 4 bids from 3 companies. So we will get with Amby on that and make a recommendation for council to look at.
Do you want to?
We are just now. Go ahead, sir.
Do you want to tease us a little bit more? Did we get a fairly favorable bid?
It's in the ballpark where we talked in
Okay.
just over the 500,000 range.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
So, I don't want to, because numbers, until we go through the specifications and make sure they mirror what we were asking, numbers are kind of out the door until that happens. So,
Sure.
when we complete that, we'll get with Andy and we'll go from there.
Excellent.
We are in the process of completing our strategic plan and our good plan with J&H Consulting. It's almost complete. Due to COVID, it got, of course, delayed like everything else has. We continue to, Chief Gregory and I always meet on a daily basis and go over, concerns that he has in his department going on out on the streets and concerns that we have going on here. So it's always a good conversation with Chief Gregory. We still attend the stakeholder meetings, the COVID meetings, and we are finishing a new QA/QI policy, and that's why I don't have a fancy report in your packet tonight. We're learning it. We have to do our QA on our medical calls before our response report is complete, and we can't print out a complete report until the QA is done. So it's a work in progress. Next month you'll have a fancy report back in your packet. We are currently updating all our SOGs that were written in 2011. And as we go on, those have to be looked at annually for our accreditation process. We are finishing up budget stuff and working with Andy, and we're all well and healthy. And I hope you all are the same.
Questions?
That's all I have, sir.
Questions for Chief Kimball? Anybody have anything? JB, tell all of the guys to be extra safe. Every time that siren goes off just down the street from my house, I always wonder, I know you'll text me if there's any, but still,
If
thanks.
it's on the streets, I always try to let you know, and that way, you're aware if somebody calls and says something's going on.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate that.
If you guys have anything, let us know.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Is Jerry Arnold on the line? Callie?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I've got Jerry's report. I wasn't sure whether he was going to be joining us by phone or not. So let me hit the highlights of his report. This is Jerry's June 4 report. From the director, the survey for the hospital secondary emergency access has been completed, and the boundaries will be staked out next week. Streets and parks, continued work on Fike Lane. They've started demolition on the Gateway West project, and the parks were opened Monday, but he has the caveat, please continue to observe social distancing and no groups exceeding 25. The sewer department, Crew 1, continues to work on the 33 West North Side sewer extension. Crew 2 completed a storm sewer drop at 11 Henry Street and will be starting the Jang sewer line on East Main Street. The maintenance crew, they've been doing some interior painting and will be repairing some road cuts. Water department had nothing new to report, but they've been doing a lot of work. Waste collection board will be resuming commercial recycling, and this is at Mud Lick. This is not at Crossroads. At Mud Lick, commercial recycling will restart on Monday, June 8th, and residential curbside pickup will resume on Tuesday, June 16th. So June 8th, commercial recycling out at our transfer station. June 16th, residential curbside pickup. Engineering, Jay Holland reports that the Binky Poundstone Riverwalk Trail Extension number 4, that we received notification from the governor's office for the TAP grant for $50,000. We're already retooling the next grant, seeking $150,000+ for next year. And that is the extent of Mr. Arnold's report. That takes us down to City Attorney Tom O'Neill. Tom, what do you got for us?
Well, I'll defer to strategic. I don't have anything in addition to what we had already discussed and what we will be discussing.
Tom's deferring to strategic, and we'll call him back up here in just a couple of minutes. Correspondence and information, you've got a ton of proclamations and the opening remarks at our inaugural BUHS Champions Day, which we held at Jawbone Park on May 28th. There's the Memorial Day address delivered at Hebner Cemetery on May 25th. There's the statement that was issued relative to our disappointment with the abandoned mine land grant, and also the good news on the West Virginia DOH TAP grant. There's the report of cat and dog activity from the Upshur County Commission for the months of March and April. And there's also a flyer PR statement about the dedication of the gallery at the Colonial Theater, which again occurs tomorrow. That's June 5th at 4 o'clock. So please come out and observe the dedication of the gallery. Art 26201 will be handing out masks. I think they're decorative masks, so yeah, it would look a lot better than that just regular mask that Randy Sanders has this evening. You know, it might have, you know, Rodin on it, or one of those Andy Warhol. Who knows, right?
Never know, never know.
Yeah, never know.
Come out and find.
Come out and find.
Yes.
Consent agenda consists of 4 items: the approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of May 21, the approval of the building and wiring permits, the approval of payment of the general fund bills, and then an event request, the community vigil tomorrow at 7:30 in Jawbone Park. That request for the use of Jawbone came after the Consolidated Public Works Board had met last Thursday. That's the reason it's on the council agenda. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I would entertain a motion that we approve our consent agenda. I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh. Might I have a second to her motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Rylands. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 I think that's unanimous. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Takes us down to strategic issues for our consideration. The first item, and hats off to City Attorney Tom O'Neill, would be to approve the revised City of Buckhannon Employee Handbook. I would entertain a motion that we approve this, and then we'll, after we get it on the table, we'll let Tom hit the highlights for us. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sanders and a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Now discussion on the motion, and let's defer to Tom first, and then we'll let council weigh in.
Sure.
Mr. O'Neill.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, because we've discussed, the council has already discussed the contents of the new handbook the past couple of meetings. This last draft incorporates all of the requested changes that come from the supervisors as well as from the council last meeting with respect to tobacco use at certain city facilities, public safety complex, Jawbone, the library, and Stockard. So with that, it reflects the draft. The final draft reflects all of the input that has been received. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions for Tom? I found 97 Oxford comma things, and when you've got 2 or 3 lawyers that participate in drafting stuff, you might end up with an Oxford. I'm very highly pro Oxford comma. Oh yeah. Katie, when I send her a statement that they put in my Buckhannon, she takes my Oxford commas out. I'm gonna quit sending her stuff.
Good job. Good job.
I could give you 100 reasons why the Oxford commas should always. Yeah. Best discussed
We have a
over.
motion on the table.
Yes, we do. Is there any further sort of discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. I have a statement, a short statement. The good news about the pandemic is that things are getting shorter that we have to do relative to it. So bear with me, and then I'll ask you to take action on 3 matters. We continue to take our cues from Charleston regarding all things COVID-19. We continue to recognize and appreciate the excellent performance of our city employees during this difficult time. We believe we are prepared to further cautiously relax some restrictions that had been put in place during the past 3 months to minimize the spread of the virus and to protect our residents. With Council's endorsement this evening, here's what I propose during the next 10 days. 1, restoration of the opportunity to conduct yard, garage, or patio sales at residences within our corporate limits, effective tomorrow, that's Friday, June 5. Please contact the Parish House, Salvation Army, or Goodwill prior to just dropping things off at these establishments. And I'm talking about the things that might not sell at your garage or yard sale. Don't assume that you can take everything to these places, the Parish House, Salvation Army, or Goodwill. Sponsors should limit attendees to 25 maximum, that's 25 at a time. Control pedestrian traffic flow, similar to Walmart. Permit only the seller to touch merchandise. Wear face masks. Have hand sanitizer available for patrons. And you are not permitted to sell food or beverages. That all comes from the state and county information on COVID-19. So that's item 1. Item 2, assuming the Water Board acts accordingly during its meeting of June 11, I propose that effective Monday, June 15, that our council endorse shutoff of utility services for those delinquent in their payments. On March 19, Council took action to suspend termination of city services at the urging of the West Virginia Public Service Commission. We've spoken with PSC representatives, and the decision to resume utility shutoffs is entirely the city's. To be clear, the vast majority of our utility subscribers have continued to make their utility payments regularly. However, there are some subscribers who've not paid anything on their utility bill for months now. The financial sustainability of our utility operations requires us to hold customers accountable for paying for their services. 3, full resumption of municipal court effective tomorrow, Friday, June 5. Helen Eckert is ready to go. Please call 304-472-1651 for assistance with any matters related to a citation or any Buckhannon Municipal Court issue. Our reopening of some city facilities, including City Hall, has occurred this week with virtually no issues. We continue to urge all people coming to City Hall or any city facility that's been reopened to the public to continue to take extra daily sanitation measures, encouraging wearing of masks, etc., all to reduce the threat of virus exposure to anyone who enters City Hall or any other city facility. Again, please continue to wash your hands, social distance, stay home if sick, wear masks when out, etc. We are pleased that our Buckhannon Walmart is scheduled to commence its curbside grocery pickup or online grocery service, as Walmart prefers to call it, on Wednesday, July 29th. We continue to work on the 4th of July fireworks exhibition, starting at about 9:45 to 10 p.m. on Sunday, July 5, with attendees remaining within or immediately beside their cars. As reported previously, city representatives are working with businesses around the launch site to create a master parking plan to accommodate those desiring to attend. We in fact have received a thumbs up from a majority of those sites, and no one yet has told us no. We are fortunate that we still have had only 6 positive cases confirmed here in Upshur County. 78 of our fellow mountaineers have succumbed to the virus, and nearly 2,100 have tested positively in West Virginia. Nearly 108,000 Americans have now died from COVID-19, and the total number of Americans who've contracted the disease has eclipsed 1.85 million, with more than 6.5 million cases worldwide and about 390,000 deaths. Our city will continue to take its cues from Governor Justice and state and county health officials. This remains a very fluid situation. We continue to be all in this together. Anyone having an emergency should contact 911 as you normally would. The best source of information about COVID-19 remains the Centers for Disease Control website. We still have a long way to go to get past this crisis. Please follow the science and pray for the vaccine soon. So Council, I gave you 3 measures to consider for this evening. I'd entertain a motion that we approve those 3 measures.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner. May I have a second to his motion?
Second.
I have a second. I have a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Pam, you thirded it. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We're going to continue to carry over on strategic the idea of having a community meeting. I think we have to wait until the governor allows meetings of 50 or more people before we actually convene the town hall meeting to discuss the development of the Madison Street property. So let's just hold off on that idea until after July 2. F4 we have already acted upon. F5, authorizing the execution of the agreement with the West Virginia Department of Highways regarding the extension 4 to the Elizabeth Poundstone River Walk Trail. This is a $50,000 grant that would extend the river trail another 37/100ths of a mile, or a total of 1,930 linear feet. I would entertain a motion that I be authorized to execute that agreement.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Sanders. Can I have a second to his motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And I asked Jerry to contact Brian Cooper, F6, for an update. We haven't heard anything, I guess, since March, when Cooper thought that they would hear something about any day. Well, now it's June 4th, and we still have not heard anything from the state of West Virginia. We'll continue to be vigilant. I have folks who periodically run into me on Main Street that say, when are we going to hear something about the traffic study? And I continue to tell them that it's entirely in the state of West Virginia's hands. So believe me, we'll let you know as soon as we hear. So there's no action to be taken on that matter tonight. It takes us down to comments and announcements, and first up is Mrs. Albaugh. Mrs. Albaugh, what do you have for us?
Well, first of all, I apologize for being late this evening.
It's all right.
I was not looking at the good clock. That's all I can tell you. Anyways, I want to say a special thank you to Nathan Fatty. I really have enjoyed working with him and learning who he is. He's a sharp, great guy, and getting that trail all the way out there is going to be great because it's everywhere else, and it'll be great for us. And also, I want to thank the businesses locally who went in some groups, churches, I don't know, they took meals to our police department, our fire department, St. Joseph's Hospital, and a lot of things. And I want to I'm thankful for St. Joseph's Hospital being here. They've done a great job, I think, the way they organized and prepared, and not just them, other doctors' offices too, and I'm just very thankful for all of them and for us, because, and you too, Mayor, for making sure, talking with Tom and getting these regulations out there and sharing it. And I think that's why we've been successful with not a higher amount of people. We've covered it, and I appreciate that very much.
Only 6 cases. It's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Albaugh.
Okay.
Pam Bucklew, what do you got for us, Pam?
Well, I want to know when we're going to resume meetings for Stockbridge Youth Center.
Yeah, we agreed that we would revisit that at our July 2 meeting. So
Okay.
we're trying to not bring back non-essential folks into a close environment until the governor clears those kinds of things. But we hope that by the time we hit July, we'll be able to, we're not going to be back to normal, but we'll try to engage in some normal-like activities.
Okay, and have we heard any more on the Pythian property?
That's in Mr. O'Neill's hands, and he'll be talking with the attorney with Knights of Pythias.
Okay. Also, I'm glad to see the restaurants are back at 50% capacity. And I think people are getting out because they're tired of being home and are enjoying being out. I know I am. And I want to thank everybody who showed up for my grand opening, including you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
I'm very happy where I'm located. And on another note, I just want to wish everybody good luck in the election on Tuesday. And whatever people say, that's what it will be.
Thanks, Pam. Mr. Rylands.
You done, Pam?
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all the folks that exhibited tenacity over the years, working on this trails out by the high school and working to get an agreement that we now have forward for 10 years or more. And that if we keep doing the things in the present moment that make ourselves successful years from now, like they have done, then this can be a reality that we can walk or bike from the downtown out to the high school and surrounding areas. So I want to thank them for that, and all the other folks that are working on things that'll yield results in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, CJ. Mr. Skinner.
Pam kind of stole some of my thunder, but I do want to congratulate her for a grand opening this week. It was a nice day and a nice turnout, and we certainly wish you the best there at your new location. And I too just want to wish everybody the best this upcoming Tuesday. It seems like it's the election cycle that will never end. But a lot of folks have turned out to early vote, and a lot of folks have filled out absentee ballots. So I really do, I appreciate, on a personal note, Mayor McCauley. I believe that we've run a very cordial and respectful and professional campaign. Unfortunately, you can't control some of the third party and outside viewpoints that with any election in any city or even national level that they get involved. But I wish you the best, and I wish everybody the best, and I look forward to seeing the results and working with whomever carries forth in whatever capacity that might be. So,
Thanks, Robbie. Mr. Thomas, good to see you back in council chambers. It's been a couple of months.
Well, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Nobody would let me come here. They wouldn't pick me up, so I figured just would hang out on my house on the phone. But it is, David, I appreciate your beginning of the meeting with what you read. And I'm the oldest person in this room, probably.
It's not even close.
It's very despicable to see what happens in our country today. And I've made this comment several times that we tend to glorify violence and desensitize death. It's happening all over our country today, and I think there are many culprits as far that need to take responsibility, and we need leadership desperately in our country. I do want to remind people on Saturday, June the 6th is one of the anniversaries of D-Day.
That's right.
And I believe that some of us on council had fathers or grandfathers that participated in that in World War II. I know my father was Omaha Beach on D-Day, and it's hard to even imagine what this world would have been like if America and Great Britain and others had not prevailed in World War II. And I really do believe it was the greatest generation. I hope we can step up to the plate so that 50 or 60 years from now, somebody will say, you know, those people back in the 2020 or 2019 or 2021 were really quite responsible for changing the complexion of our country today. We need to work together. And the racism is terrible. I've witnessed it myself sometimes with friends of mine back in the 60s. I made a comment at the chapel that I was down in the southeastern part of the country with blacks and whites, and we were refused to, we couldn't get service in restaurants because there were black teammates. We've come a long way in many ways, but I think we have to remember we still have a long way to go. And people that do Facebook and do things that are derogatory and very hurtful, I wish they reconsider what they're doing. We need to reach out to each other and try to be a better community, both locally, which I think we are, and you know, county and state, and especially the federal government. And I worry about the news media. I will say more about that next council meeting because I have some things I'd like to get off my mind. I might write an editorial to both the papers, quite frankly. But you all be safe and have an enjoyable weekend, and see you in a couple weeks.
Katie Kuba's waiting with bated breath.
Well, I'll call Katie Kuba. I've been calling her, but she ignores me all the time now for some reason.
Mr. Sanders,
I'm teasing Katie.
what do you have for us?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll add my congratulations to Pam Buckley on the opening of her new business, but I'll also send out a congratulations to all the business owners who have had what seems to be a re-grand opening of sorts around our community, across the state, across the country. As a business person myself, it's devastating to be stopped in your tracks. Not able to do what you love, not able to get up and take on the challenges, and to just have your world, your business world dictated by outside forces that are unstoppable, it seems like. So it looks like we may have a break. Looks like we can start getting back to normal. I would caution people to understand that businesses that have to operate at 50% capacity, they were never built to do that. So it's still going to be a long road. So let's support each other, support our local businesses just as much as possible. A lot of other things going on between COVID-19 and, you know, what we see on the news with race relations. I do business in several states. I produce shows in Indiana, Pennsylvania. I've worked in New York, Vermont, Connecticut. I've traveled across the entire country producing shows. And I really feel blessed to be back home here in Buckhannon, where we have the likes of Chief Gregory, Chief Kimball, our first responders who are so professional, caring. You know, as Mary said, St. Joseph's Hospital, they're ready to take on whatever task is presented to them. I look at Garth Brooks has a billboard, and I love this, and it says, when there's only one race, and that's mankind, we shall be free. Love is in you, pass it on. And that's what really we all need to understand. There's one race, and it's mankind. And that's all that needs to be said. So good luck to all in the election, June 9th. We'll see what happens. God bless everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Well said, Randy. Just a couple of reminders. Tomorrow is a busy day in Buckhannon. The gallery will be dedicated at 4 o'clock in front of the Colonial Theater. We will be observing social distancing. We'll only allow so many folks to tour the youth art exhibit representing all 9 schools in our school system. Might only be 8 or 10 folks at a time in the gallery, but please come out for that. At 7:30, we'll commence the vigil in Jawbone Park. Again, social distancing, bring your masks, and it'll be a nice event. It's strange times in this world. Somebody talked about Dave Thomas looking back on 2020 40, 50, 60 years from now. And It'll be one for the record books, I figure, 2020. Somebody was asking the other day, what's next? And I flippantly titled The Martian Invasion. That's got, I mean, it's, what else is there, right?
Yeah.
You just can't make this stuff up. If you don't vote for anybody or anything else next Tuesday, please support the Charles W. Gibson Memorial Library. It's a great little place. We're looking at doing some expansion down there. The funding that comes from the very, very minute, small city levy is just enough for them to pay their staffers and to buy a few books every year. So please support the library levy next Tuesday. Council, that's all I have. I would remind everybody, Dennis Cordes wants to address the council. Dennis, I wish you would have spoke up when we recognized guests, but go ahead.
My apologies. The thought occurred to me afterwards. If you can't, well, let me, first off, these masks, I gotta tell you, for years my friends have been trying to get me to cover my face. I hope they're happy.
Yeah.
On a serious note, I discovered that everything has to be in garbage bags to go onto trucks nowadays. That includes the sweepings off my shop floor and things like that. What happens if we lose a branch off our tree? Do we gotta cut it up into itty bitty pieces and put in the bags? What do we do with it?
Our waste collection guys have resumed yard debris pickup. That was back in the 1st of May.
I see.
All you gotta do is call City Hall, hit number 2, okay, and talk, it's only twice a month now, I think?
First and third Friday.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas knows.
Every third Friday?
First and third.
First and third Fridays, okay.
Call them before noon on Thursday, before that first or third
You gotta
Friday.
get on their schedule. You gotta get on their
All right.
schedule in advance.
And also that you need to get it out Thursday night because they come in really early Friday mornings.
Yeah, I remember that much, yeah. I was wondering, because I haven't heard anything when the bill comes, you know?
And you don't want to put it in plastic bags. You either put it in a trash can or you put it in a disposable bag.
Yeah.
Well, one day they told me that there would be no loose trash going into the back of the truck.
Right. You can tie branches up. They prefer like they prefer like 3 feet.
Okay. So if we should lose a branch or a limb or something like that, that's how we handle it.
They'll fix
Okay.
you up, Dennis. Anything else?
I'm sorry, I apologize for not being here more often, but I've developed sciatic problems, and it's painful. You can see me standing like this right now. But I'm back, and you get stuck with my humor now.
Or lack thereof, Dennis.
Yeah, wait a minute, what?
I think we vote on that.
I vote too. I vote yes.
I want to thank again, the last couple of meetings, I have forgotten to thank Rodney Irvin
There you go.
and Brian Damastis for carrying us live on Facebook and streaming us in the whole bit. Fellas, one of these days, when we're allowed to have lunch again, I'll buy you a sandwich. But we appreciate our friends at Channel 3. The next council meeting again is Thursday, June 18. I'd entertain a motion that we adjourn at 8:22.
Second.
Man, I heard the 1st through 6th on that motion.
I'll put them all on there.
We're out of here. Thank you, everybody.
CJ?